Joe Biden does the exact same thing. He keeps his mouth shut. He lets the pro-Hamas side of his party have a stronghold on college campuses, in the streets of the city. He didn't say anything against those protests where they were trying to break down the fence outside the White House. Have you seen him say anything about those people? No. And of course, members of his own party like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar, they get great coverage opposing Israel and supporting the terrorists. And nobody says anything about it. Certainly not Joe Biden. Nobody except for one person, at least, that we've seen. No Democrat has been as eloquent as Representative Ritchie Torres from the Bronx. And I say the Bronx in particular because his district is adjacent to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. They basically represent the same area and the same people. They're both Democrats, but the difference in what they have had to say about Hamas and Israel, it's night and day. We get accused of being too partisan here, that we never have anything nice to say about Democrats. Well, mark this down. Ritchie Torres, I disagree with Ritchie Torres, Democrat, member of the House of Representatives, probably on a whole lot of policy things. But God bless him and huge praise for him about what he had to say here at a church honoring Martin Luther King Day. Watch.
It's an honor to be here to offer a few reflections on Dr. King and the moral crisis that we're facing.
Give me, I said a church, and to be specific, this is looks as though it's a synagogue. I'm sorry. I didn't suggest that it was a Christian house of worship. It is a synagogue.
In a post-October 7th world. Like all of you, I was profoundly shaken, not only by October 7th, but by the aftermath. I found it utterly horrifying to see fellow Americans openly cheering and celebrating the deadliest massacre of Jews since the Holocaust. And for me, the aftermath of October 7th revealed a barbarity of the American heart that reminded me of an earlier and darker time in our nation's history, a time when the public mobs of Jim Crow would openly celebrate the lynching of African Americans or the lynching of a Jewish American like Leo Frank. And so words cannot express the overwhelming outrage that I felt at the barbaric reaction to the barbarism of October 7th. You know, people often ask me, why do you care so deeply? Why do you speak out so frequently and forcefully against anti-Semitism? And I simply reply, you are asking the wrong question. The question is not, why have I chosen to be outspoken? The question is, why have others chosen to be silent amid the deadliest day for Jews since the Holocaust? Dr. King once said that history will record that the greatest tragedy is not the strident clamor of the bad people, but it's the appalling silence of the good people. Elie Wiesel once said that the opposite of love is not hate, it is indifference. And what we've seen in the aftermath of October 7th is appalling silence and indifference and cowardice from so-called leaders in our society, from institutions that we once respected and admired. And if we as a society cannot bring ourselves to condemn the murder of innocents with moral clarity, then we must ask, what are we becoming as a society?
This video goes on for another several minutes, and I implore you to take a look at it and watch it in its entirety. And I want to point out here that that last passage right there, he's talking about his own colleagues. He's talking about his neighboring congresswoman, his sister there in the House of Representatives, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. He's talking about Ilhan Omar. Frankly, he's talking about the leadership of his party. He's talking about the president of the United States. He won't name them. He won't call them out. It's understandable. But what he said there and what he continues to say, this incredibly powerful and eloquent speech, why is it so hard? Why is it so hard for Joe Biden to say exactly the same thing? I mean, other than the fact that he has mashed potato for brains. He could put out a written statement. Why is it hard for Karine Jean-Pierre, the spokesperson, who I believe is supposed to be more eloquent than the president? Why is it so hard for her to say it? Why is it so hard for Kamala Harris to say it? Why is it so hard to say exactly what he's saying, to call good, good, and evil, evil, to call the victims of a massacre the actual victims and the perpetrators of the massacre the evildoers? Why is that hard for today's Democratic Party? Why is he a unicorn here for the Democrats? And, well, sadly, there's only two possible answers. The first is political cowardice, because Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and all the other people I just mentioned are terrified to lose financial and electoral support from people within their party who would disagree with that sentiment. Or, frankly, even more upsetting, that those people I just mentioned don't actually agree with what Congressman Torres said here. That those people, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, that they actually do truly believe that Israel, the victim of the terror attacks of October 7th, that they are, in fact, the bad guys in this scenario. Good on you, Representative Ritchie Torres. Congratulations. Great job. Well done. Now, tomorrow, we'll be criticizing you again because you're wrong on so many other political issues, but good job today.